yourself again. But it's the only...
Good evening and welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It's Thursday night and usually I'm joined by Malcolm and Gibbo, but Gibbo has had to get a little bit of emergency treatment on a tooth, Malcolm. I hope it's not the football that's giving him toothache.
Well, I think it's giving us all a headache.
Yeah, so we wish John well. Hopefully he'll be back next week, and at least he managed to get an emergency appointment, which is the main thing.
Good for him. Yes, I hope it all works out well.
Good stuff. I do want to start off the show by playing a video, Malcolm, which somebody has sent to me on Instagram. And this is a futsal class, which basically took a different direction. So I don't think it's got sound, this video, from what I can remember. It was sent in back end of last week. But this is a few kids at a futsal class trying to recreate one of your goals. So that's the goal, Mal.
Yeah, wow.
Which I'm sure you can remember. What an absolute belter that is, by the way. Now watch the kids. It was a good one to start with. This kid does it well. Yeah. Look at that.
Oh, very good.
Too many bounces. But he got it on target. Look at that.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh.
He thought he'd scored and he goes for a second one, look.
And that's got to go in.
It did.
They do not strike the ball well, these lads.
That kid has a second go. Yeah, but hey, honestly, thanks for sending that in on Instagram. I thought you'd appreciate that. Kids trying to recreate Malcolm's goals all these years on. It's fantastic. But if you've got any videos like that, please send them in. We will try and play them. If you want to try and recreate Malcolm's goal with a tennis ball or something, but please don't do it anywhere near greenhouses. NUFC Matters can't be responsible for where the ball goes. So Mal, let's talk about the positive and then the negative. We've had 2 games since you and I were last together. The positive was a wonderful performance. I've gone on record already in saying I thought it was the performance of the season against Everton.
Absolutely, it was the performance of the season. I thought they were absolutely terrific, and I saw a whole new spirit and ethos in the side. And people that I have been saying have looked really bad players, poor players, they suddenly came to the fore. And I'll give you an example. Lewis at left back. I thought he looked absolutely tremendous against Everton. And he was getting forward. His timing was great. Even his defending, which I have been highly critical of, he looked okay in defence. But then he was getting forward and going with purpose. And so many other players all going with purpose. And then we get to Crystal Palace, and after 2 or 3 minutes, having gone a goal up, all the purpose was lost, and everybody just reverted to type, pre-Everton type, and it looked awful, and you could see in the Crystal Palace players, they could smell that Newcastle had turned off, and they just started to go for it. And once they went 2-1 up, there was no way that Newcastle were going to come back into it. No way at all. So where does this 90 minutes from against Everton come from? Where they can't, Newcastle, they desperately need to get 2 or 3 good results all in a row, just to raise the confidence levels. Winning one, losing one, that's not good enough. It really isn't. And having beaten Everton and then lost to Crystal Palace, we see Brighton go to Liverpool get 3 points there, and go above Newcastle in the table. And so Newcastle now, they've got to seriously be looking over their shoulder. I know that there's quite a gap between Newcastle and Fulham, but for heaven's sake, Fulham, they keep picking up points here and there, better than Newcastle have been doing. And so I still remain a worried man at the moment. I really do. One thing I didn't understand was why Jones, having had, and I think that it was entirely his effect on the players at Everton that brought that fantastic showing. Why then against Crystal Palace was he up in the stand?
Yeah.
Why? He can see and get a really good view of things, but he's not going to be able to have any effect actually with what's happening on the pitch.
Well, he was in the stand early on, Malcolm, and then it's led to believe. Then he came down, yeah. But I mean, obviously, I took a picture off the TV, and I know, look, there was 90 minutes of football, and my photograph though captured just a moment in time when Graham Jones was really bossing the team and telling them what to do, and Steve Bruce and Agnew were standing back. And to be honest, Bruce gave him what can only be described in the Northeast as a hacky look. He wasn't very happy about it, and you got the impression at half time he was told to wind his neck in and sit back down, and possibly
that's what I think.
Possibly the second game, the game against Crystal Palace, he was given a different role, maybe so that he didn't embarrass the gaffer.
Oh, yes. Was he actually told, get up in the stand? Well, if that's the case, if the fella's here to help, and it was obvious that he can help by what we saw against Everton, then let him go where he wants to if he can have that really good effect on the players. And he did have an effect on the players, an effect that nobody there, Steve Bruce and his two other coaches, have not shown whatsoever since they walked through the door. And it was such a sea change against Everton. The attitude of the players, the way they went out, there was a determination about them. John Joe Shelby, good heavens above, he was actually playing in the opposing half instead of just outside of his own penalty area. So obviously things were changing for the better, for the more positive, and then it all reverted to type after about 5 minutes against Crystal Palace, and that I just don't understand. And if Steve Bruce is happy, and there is one other thing I must pick Steve Bruce up about, that he said, well, we've seen this improvement coming for a number of weeks. This is what he said just after the Everton game. In a number of the past performances, we've seen this improvement coming. No, you haven't, because there hasn't been any. There hasn't been any at all. And if you, Steve Bruce, are going to try killing us, you are going to be laughed out of this city.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's a strange situation we find ourselves in. Steve Bruce, obviously, not the fans' favourite, it has to be said, and we're in a bit of a pickle. But we'll see how things progress. Good evening to Gareth Varty from Spider VPN, and they are our sponsors for February. Spider VPN will be sponsoring our StreamYard application, so thank you very much to them.
I love the logo. Absolutely fantastic logo.
It's good, isn't it, Mal? It is great.
Wonderful.
Well, listen, there is good news for our regular viewers as well. Spider have also said that they are willing, each match day live, to do a prize draw for one of our lucky viewers to win a free Spider Connect router and 12-month VPN subscription. So they're going to do that for each match in February that we cover. So great to have them on board. Thanks very much for joining us, Gareth, tonight on the show as well. But Malcolm likes your logo, so that's a good start.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about, and we'll come to people's questions throughout the show, but let's talk a little bit about Joe Linton. Broke COVID rules, Malcolm, by going for a haircut. Not something I need to worry about. I can do it myself at home. But Joe Linton clearly is somebody who, feels as if he needs to get a haircut. Now, I'm not going to victimise him and pick him out because, according to the hairdresser who, did his haircut, then, plenty of the footballers have been going and getting this done. Unfortunately for him, he chose to put it on social media and, draw attention to the fact that he was getting it done. Well, the decision's been made to fine him today. £200. That's it. £200, Mal. Look, I mean, I'm not really making this I don't want
fine on him or the police. When I first heard it, I thought, oh, well, that's what the police are doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? £200 fine. It doesn't really send a message to anybody, does it?
It doesn't. It suggests they're not taking it all that seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? But bad PR, I think, really, as well. Bad PR.
Yeah, very bad. Very bad, considering that other clubs are coming down very heavily on players who disobey the current rules.
Yeah.
Very heavily.
Jonathan Ward's got a question for you. He says, Malcolm, can you recount your memory of the Derby versus Fulham match in 1983 when you witnessed Derby fans standing all around the pitch trying to kick your players and affect the result? He says, it sounds crazy. Now, I think Jonathan asked this question last week, but we didn't get to it. Can you remember that, Mal?
I certainly can. It was the last game of the season, Steve. And the situation was that my Fulham side we have been third in the second division right the way through the season. But Leicester came on one hell of a run. And we're in fourth place. And it worked out that we needed to draw at Derby, but Leicester needed to win. As it happens, Leicester drew. So we needed the win at Derby, but the real thing that threw a grenade into it was that if Derby got beat by us, they would be relegated. And so it was a really tense game. And with about 22 minutes to go, Derby scored. And within a couple of minutes, people had come over the barriers and weren't just around the pitch, but they were actually coming on. And after about a further 2 or 3 minutes, me trying to see what was going on the pitch, I had to come out of the dugout, over the track, and actually go onto the pitch by 10 yards to see around the crowd that had encroached onto the pitch. And so if you can imagine, this was the half that Derby were attacking, and Fulham defending it. And this was the half that Derby were defending. We were attacking it. And the crowd had gone 10 yards onto the pitch in rows, all along the side that the dugout was on, and then not all the way along on the goal line. They sort of missed out the goal bit, so there was a whole line of crowd on the pitch, and then it sort of stopped short just by the post, and then it restarted again just beyond the other post and went towards the corner, but then it went up the other side, and it was 10 yards deep again of people, and it was ridiculous situation, so ridiculous. And Robert Wilson, midfield player for Fulham, he controlled the ball sort of on the inside left position, and he was fairly near the crowd, and a sort of somebody in his about 20, 21 rushed out from the crowd that was on the pitch and booted Robert Wilson on his thigh. And the game just continued. The referee honestly didn't know what to do. Didn't know. So we're 1-0 down against Derby, and the Derby supporters have just pretty much reduced the Derby half to next to nothing. And so we're not only finding it hugely difficult to actually play, but it was a very threatening circumstance that the players found themselves in, and then as the game continued and we were sort of coming towards the end, still at 1-0 to Derby, the referee blew his whistle, and the crowd just covered the whole pitch, started assaulting all the Fulham players, and I thought, he hasn't blown for full time, I'm sure of it. But anyway, I was more concerned about getting my players safely off the pitch, and I'm sort of counting them going up the tunnel to the dressing room into safety. And there was still one to come, and it was Jeff Hopkins, who was my young right back. And he suddenly emerged from the crowd. There wasn't a bit of kit on him except his socks and boots. Everything had been ripped off him, and the whole of his body was just covered in scratch marks where they had ripped the kit off him. And he went running up the tunnel, and what a dreadful state he was in. And so we got up into the dressing room, and Jeff Hopkins, he couldn't speak for shock that he had experienced out there. And so I went through to the referee's room, and I said, Mr. Referee, I said, I want you now in our dressing room. You must come and see what's going on there. So he came in, and he stood in front of Jeff Hopkins, who was in this dreadful, bloodied state. And he just said, but the game hasn't finished. That wasn't the final whistle I blew. And I just went, oh no, what do we do now? And the farce just continued because when we protested, the football authorities said it wouldn't be fair on all the other clubs if we were allowed to replay that particular match. And so it finished a dreadful farce. I think it was the football authorities getting their own back on my chairman, Ernie Clay, who was very outspoken and critical of them in charge. And so this was them getting their own back. But what happened to Jeff Hopkins was absolutely horrendous, and Derby really got away with it on that occasion.
Good stuff. Thanks for sharing. Neil McMillan says, after the tackle on Wilson, knee-high stud shown, why do we bother having VAR?
I would just reading that how it's been created. Obviously, it left the writer in shock. I was just beyond belief. It sort of like my jaw had dropped as I was watching the television screen. I couldn't believe what I saw, and for referee, 2 assistants, and the people on VAR to all dismiss it, it just makes a nonsense of the way that the VAR is being ruled, and the way that referees really don't even know what they're looking at on the pitch at times.
Yeah, it's crazy, really. There's been some really controversial decisions, and it was brought in to clear up these controversial decisions, which...
Well, that's right, but it's creating new and further controversies in itself, and they're not getting it right at all. It will be a very good thing if it works perfectly, but of course you've always got the risk of human error.
Yeah. Toon Man's a bit concerned about me. He says, what do you do when Supermac's internet goes off? I'm praying that it stays on for as long as possible tonight. Otherwise, I'll be having an early louse, as they call it.
I made it last week, Steve.
Yeah, you did. You've done nearly 2 full shows, mate. So fingers crossed. Yeah. Spider VPN says thanks to you for being kind about their logo. John Ball, good to see you on, mate. He says, is it time to unleash ASM from the start, Malcolm? He's surely match fit now, or able to complete at least 60 or 70 minutes from the start.
Well, who knows? Who knows? He's had COVID, and it's affecting a lot of people in many, many, many different ways. So, to be honest, I don't know. It would have to be a doctor and a the physiotherapy department making a decision and making suggestions to Steve Bruce on that one. They might be saying, well, look, he's good for 20 minutes. But that's all you're going to get out of him. So you can either have him starting the game but coming off midway through the first half, which is not really what you want, or come on in the last 20, 25 as a threat.
Yeah, there's something I want to ask you, Malcolm. Have you noticed with his substitutions, he always makes them round about the 65th minute mark?
Yeah.
Why does he do that?
It's habit.
Yeah,
it really is habit. It's not giving it thought,
right?
Sometimes for me it's quite a waste of time, because I think it is just purely habit.
Yeah, it's just strange to watch. This is the same old thing. You can predict it now. Tom says, what did you think about Man United beating Southampton 9-0 through the week? I mean, they had 2 sent off, Mal. I know they're appealing one of those sending offs, but it's there've been some crazy scorelines, and Southampton have been on the thick end of a couple of them.
Well, they have, haven't they? Southampton have taken some right hammerings. Manchester City, didn't they wallop them? With a very high score, and it's happened 2 or 3 times to Southampton. Now, I'm sort of jumping ahead to what Newcastle are facing on Saturday. It's one of those situations where you think, well, has it completely and utterly diminished the whole of the Southampton side, and that it's going to take them ages to get any confidence back into themselves, and therefore that's good for Newcastle? Or are they going to say, right, come on, this is never going to happen, let's get out there, show everybody, and put a bit of an onslaught onto Newcastle? Who knows? but I think that Newcastle must be very aware of a backlash coming from Southampton this weekend.
Yeah, I would agree. I had a text off somebody else who wore the number 9 shirt last night, Alan Shearer, and he has sent a couple of pictures, and it's due to his new attempt to raise some money, much needed funds for his charity. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link into the chat, but this is the Alan Shearer Foundation prize draw, and the chance to win a unique piece of memorabilia. So from today, you'll be able to help the Alan Shearer Foundation by entering his prize draw to win his match shirt, the captain's armband, and the boots which he wore when he scored his 250th Premier League goal. So basically, you will go to the link, which I'm just about to stick in the live chat now, and it's £10 to enter. It's a prize draw. It's all above board, but that is a wonderful piece of memorabilia for you to win. Comes in a nice frame. There's the captain's armband as well. But a unique prize for any Newcastle fan to win. And so far, that prize raffle is up to £38,000. So wonderful way to make some money for charity. Best of luck to all who enter. I think I will be putting £10 in myself to see if I can win that as well. But great of Alan to do that. A lot of people asking you what your opinion is. I'll go to Alan Thompson here. What's Malcolm's thoughts on the Burnley takeover? It sounds worse by the day. I am totally sickened by it, and I am disgusted with the Premier League. Just really the nuts and bolts are that the US takeover that Burnley had in recent weeks with ALK Capital basically has meant that Burnley are now £90 million worse off than they were with loaded debt. Quite unbelievable when you think that Newcastle's takeover, which would have seen them become one of the richest clubs in the world, if not the richest club in the world, was knocked back, Malcolm.
Yeah, I know. You talk of the debt being brought into Burnley there. Very similar happened with the Glazers and Man United, didn't it?
Yeah.
Man United suffered a huge financial loss in the whole thing. But of course, the kind of pulling power that they have, they got it sort of cleared and have been a very good investment for the Glazers. I hope it works out for Burnley, because I do think that they're quite a special football club, and I do enjoy seeing them in the Premier League. And I like Sean Dyche a lot. I think he is absolutely terrific. And I saw that if it doesn't work out for him, that he may well be linked with Newcastle United for next season.
Yeah.
Heard anything on that one at all? Anybody?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, I might get a job as a lookalike with me bald head and me goatee beard, Mal. Apart from that, I'm not sure whether I'd want Sean Dyche here, because it's just shows exactly where we are. We've still got Mike Ashley in charge, but I'd rather have him than Steve Bruce if Mike Ashley does end up keeping the football club.
Now, you can look mean at times, Steve, but you can't look as mean as Sean Dyche, I tell you.
I think I got sent off more than he did when I played football, Mal, anyway. But yeah, interesting. We'll see how it all develops. Mike Stewart talks about the European leagues. The Premier League and other European leagues are going to meet to discuss a new Champions League format from 2024. He said, could there be anything untoward behind this regarding the Big Six? So, yeah, there is, again, more rumours, more talks. I don't think this project's really gone away, has it? I think it's still bubbling away in the background, and I think that again plays its part with Newcastle not being able to get that takeover through.
Yeah. Yes, there's the big clubs of Europe. They're definitely on a move to how shall I put it? To create another level, whether it's whilst everybody is there and that they just become the cream of the crop. I really don't know, but it's not good for football what we're witnessing. That I do know. It will take a lot of competition out of it. And if you play in competition, you've got to have rewards that are there and open to everybody. And that's what I think is at risk. And I, for one, will be very sad to see anything like that happen. So, you know, the clubs like Bayern Munich and Juventus, Paris Saint-Germain, they should pull back. The game is a competitive one. It is not a closed shop.
Yeah, I would agree. Trey and Son just talking about the Fulham. It was a great Fulham side to watch. Gordon Davies was lethal in front of goal. Ray Houghton pulling the strings. Lineker and Alan Smith stopped them being promoted. Tim asks, who was Malcolm's best signing and best value player that he signed?
It was already mentioned in the previous text there. Ray Houghton. He was at West Ham. He had been an apprentice, and then they signed him as a pro. And there was another lad there called Dickens. Who both were midfield players of the same age. And I phoned John Lyle, and I said to him, John, a little birdie has whispered in my ear that you may well be letting let him go on a free, Ray Houghton. So I said, is that right, or am I wasting my time? He said, no. He said, certainly considering it. He said, I've talked with my staff. He said, and we felt, in all fairness, only one of two, of Dickens or Houghton, are going to make it into the first team. They can't do it together. There isn't the space. He said we've got too many really good midfield players. And he said, so we had to make a decision. Dickens or Houghton. He said, and we decided on keeping Dickens. As it happens, it never worked out for West Ham. I think the lad went to Chelsea, never made it, never did anything at all in the game. Ray Houghton, I said to John Lyle, would you like to let me talk to Ray Houghton? And he said, I think Fulham would be great. The football you play would suit him down to the ground. He said, I'm going to send him over today. And I got him on a free transfer.
Amazing.
You know, if that's not good business, then I don't know what is. And so Ray Houghton, he came straight over to Fulham. And it just so happens that the season had just ended. And we were getting prepared to fly out to Trinidad. And we were going to play in a 3-club competition, the Trinidad national side, Queen's Park Rangers and Fulham. And we were going to be over there for 3 weeks. So I sat down with Ray and I made him a much better offer than he had been on at West Ham. And in talking to him, looking to impress, to get him to want to sign, I said, no, by the way, I said, in 2 days' time, I said, we're flying out to Trinidad and Tobago. I said, you've just got time to get home, pack a bag and get yourself back here, and we're going off to the Caribbean. And it was a clincher. He signed there and then. And he was a terrific signing. And what what I've always recognised in football, as player, as manager, whatever, footballers often judge the manager on the players he brings into the club. And so I brought Ray Houghton in, and the players all just went, "Wow, Ray Houghton," and they and so I was sort of managing Fulham in heroic status as far as the dressing room was concerned, you know, and he lived up to everything that the players expected from him. He was absolutely brilliant, absolutely.
Great stuff. Tom Dixon says, what's your thoughts on Joe Willock joining Newcastle?
It's interesting. I don't know much about him because I haven't really seen anything really of him. If he's at Arsenal, then he is a good player. That you'll know for sure. But quite how he gets on in the Newcastle mess that we've been witnessing this season, bar Everton, I really don't know. What will he make of it? Good heavens above! You see, you know, Arsenal, they're so organised behind the scenes, on the training ground and on the pitch, hugely organised, and he might get a bit of a shock when he gets to Newcastle. I hope that he uses the time well, because it's his chance of putting himself on the footballing map in terms of being a good player who can deal with Premiership football, who can shine at that level. So I'm sure he will come with the right attitude. Of that, I'm convinced.
James Hughes says club should fine Joe Linton £200 for every time he loses possession in a game and donate it to the food bank. He says £5,000 raised for the food bank every match day.
I'll tell you what, if that was the case, he would be skint, absolutely skint by the end of the season.
He can't get on the pitch now. I'd be giving up football if Steve Bruce wasn't picking us.
The last time he started, Steve, I purposely set out at the beginning of the game to count every time he got the ball, was able to retain possession or lose it. He lost it 2 out of 3 times. That's horrendous. I tell you, when I was playing for Tunbridge as a 17-year-old kid in the Southern League, if I had that kind of average, Harry Haslam, the manager, would have booted me out.
Yeah, true, very true. Alan Ball's first game as England captain was 1975 Germany game Supermac scored in. He said, Jasmine says, was Bally the best player you played with, the midfielder?
He was the best of his kind. When I first went to Arsenal and there were 1 or 2 new faces in the dressing room, Bally, he came and he sort of stood in the middle of the dressing room, and he looked at me and he looked at the other 2 new faces, and he said, I had this conversation anyway with Bally, but he did it for everybody. So I knew what was coming, because we had played together quite a number of times for England. And Bally, he said, now Mal, he said, listen very carefully. He said, when the ball comes to me, he said, make your run. He said, and if it doesn't come with me first touch, he said, just deviate your movement and make a second run. He said, because the ball will definitely come to you with my second touch. He said, and the reason I can say that is, he said, I've never had a third touch in my life. Seriously, he never did. He never had a third touch ever. He just got it, knocked it on, knocked it, and he kept the movement going all the while as a midfield player, and was brilliant at that. Absolutely brilliant. So yes, as that kind of a midfielder, he was the best. The very best that I've played with was a young lad in that Arsenal side, and that was Liam Brady, Chippy. He was just unbelievably sensational, and he went out to Italy after a long spell at Arsenal and played for 3 clubs over there, and is just adored wherever he goes. He really was incredible. Left peg, never lost the ball. And there was one other that I played with, and that was Colin Bell, who recently passed away, bless him. He was, again, a completely different type of midfield player to Lawley or to Liam Brady, and he just went, but he could play as well, and he could, and Malcolm Allison, of course, nicknamed him Najinski after the great racehorse, and yes, he just went up and back, and he was a Geordie.
Yep.
I didn't realise that at first, and when I first joined an England squad where he was, and he was a very quiet man, I just caught him saying something to somebody, and I went, "Good heavens, you're from the northeast," and I hadn't realised at all. Yeah, great player.
Yep, okay, great stuff. Let's just say thank you again to Spider VPN, new sponsors for the StreamYard application this month, and also a big shout out to qtechshop.co.uk, makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wolves and Newcastle. They also do our t-shirts and cups, which you can get from newcastlelegends.com. Malcolm has got his there, and there's his Supermac cup. He's got his t-shirt. Good stuff. Thanks, Mal, and big shout out. That's it. Big shout out to John from Jab Signature as well, who designs all of our posters and logos, etc. for free. Thank you very much, John. If you want to subscribe to the channel, click the little button in the bottom right hand corner and just click subscribe. Just gives you notifications as to when we are on. We're still doing 7 nights a week, and if you want to click the little thumb, just give the video a like and give it a share to your social media accounts as well. And don't forget to join the chat. We've always got plenty of people on the chat who like to talk about Newcastle and give us a few talking points, and Paul Oxley's done just that. He just says, "Malcolm, what was Jinky Jim Smith like to play with? He was my dad's favourite player."
Yeah, he was so many people's favourite player. He was mercurial with his skills. He was a total one-off. Do you remember there was a fella called Mike Bailey? He was captain of Wolves, played in the centre of midfield. And Mike Bailey, he was a good player, but he was also hard as nails. And he would look to kick people up in the air and all sorts. We played Wolves at St James Park, and Jinky, I hadn't really seen much of him because for the first couple of years that I was at Newcastle, Jinky was out injured. And it wasn't until my 3rd season that he started to get back into the side. And so we went out, and he was up against Mike Bailey, who was revered in the game as a really good player and hard man. Jinky drove him demented, absolutely demented, to the point where Bailey was pulling his hair out. He was trying to boot Smithy right up in the air. Jinky nutmegged him 26 times in 90 minutes. pretty sure it's got to be a world record. But I counted it, and I've never seen anything like it. And it just looked for all the world that Mike Bailey was going to smash Jinky up in the air. And all of a sudden, Jinky just had this wonderful ability with somebody coming up behind him, just to step slightly to the side and just with the outside of his foot, just flick the ball through the legs and finish up, sort of whizzing round and would arrive at the ball behind the fella who was trying to boot him up in the air. I've never seen anybody do it quite like that. Bestie, once or twice, did something similar, but not as effective and as brilliant as the way Jinky did it. Oh, it was absolutely fantastic. And Mike Bailey, seriously, he was driven mad by Jinky, and it was one of the most amazing matches that I found to play in. I really did.
Let's look ahead to the weekend's game. First of all, just a little bit of outgoing player news. I love the way that NUFC.com have covered this. Squatter evicted, it says. Archraf Lazar has left the club. He's become a free agent after reaching a financial settlement with Newcastle United. He was bought for $2.5 million, never started a championship game, and obviously was only restricted to a handful of substitute runouts, but he has now left the club, so that is one less financial strain on Newcastle United. Obviously, yeah. Oh, we've lost Malcolm. There we go. 1847, and Malcolm's gone. We didn't have a bet on this either, guys, so it's whether Malcolm comes back. So here I am doing the last 15 minutes on my own. It will be interesting to see what happens in this last 15 minutes and whether Mal does come back. Lots of questions for Malcolm. Any questions for me? Might as well take them on board. Who's let the dogs out, says Tom. Yeah. Well, just to look ahead to tomorrow night's show, and we'll see whether Malcolm logs in. Tomorrow night's show is the Three Amigos. We've got Steve, Neil Mitchell, and we've also got Ian Mearns joining us tomorrow. That isn't Ian Mearns, that is Marlon Brando, of course. Another great poster by John from Jab. But yeah, we have them joining. We've also got a lad called Ian Pearson joining us tomorrow. And those of you who don't know Ian, he does a lot for the LGBT community, and he will be coming on to give us his views on what we've seen over the last few weeks. He is the chair of United with Pride, and United as one ambassador. He's a passionate Newcastle fan, as well as a passionate sports fan as well. But he will be coming on to have a little bit chat about that, tell us exactly what United with Pride is doing at Newcastle United, and looking forward to hearing what he has got to say. So he will be joining us tomorrow night. Ian Mearns, of course, is the MP for Gateshead, so he will be joining us as well. So looking forward to that. Three Amigos, 5:30 start. Saturday, of course, we will be doing our match day live for the Southampton game. And then on Sunday afternoon, we will be getting Gavin Peacock back. Now, we haven't had Gavin on the show for quite a while. Gavin, of course, has just released his new book. So if you, I think a lot of people on Twitter have been giving Gavin a little bit of advice, saying that he should have potentially used a picture of him at Newcastle United on the book cover. But his book is called A Greater Glory from Pitch to Pulpit, and that will be coming out over the next few weeks. It covers, obviously, his footballing life, the footballing family, what it was like to play in an FA Cup final, captain Newcastle, play at Chelsea and QPR, his life under the managers Keegan, Glenn Hoddle, Ruud Gullit and Francis, and what it was like to work as a BBC Match of the Day pundit, and then leave all of that, of course, for the church ministry. Now, of course, a lot of you who will follow him on Twitter will see that Gavin mixes up his social media tweets with a little bit of religion. And, of course, I've got to be honest, I've seen that, wind a few people up, shall we say, and some people have had a pop at him for his religious beliefs. Not something which I would say is a nice thing for people to do. That's his choice, what he puts up there. But, yeah, I'll be asking him about his football, but I'll also be covering that. That's the book cover, A Greater Glory From Pitch to Pulpit, by Gavin Peacock. So I think that will be a really, really interesting book to read. Right, let's get to your posts and see whether Malcolm comes in. Tom Dixon says, don't forget tomorrow's clue in the competition. Does it end tomorrow night? Yes, Tom, it does end tomorrow night. So good opportunity. If you don't watch the Three Amigos, we are doing a competition which is called the Big Prize Giveaway. Win Something Tasty with Hasty. And Steve Hasty has basically had these questions via qtechshop.co.uk. The first clue, which was given out on Friday the 15th of January, was, if I've got it here, bear with us, it was some numbers. Anyway, there it is. That was clue 1. And then we had clue 2. And finally, we had clue 3. So, what happens next? Well, you have to use those 3 clues to help answer the question, which will be asked during the show tomorrow night. The first correct answer in the chat tomorrow night will be the winner. And John from qtechshop.co.uk, he will be watching live and he will be able to tell me who the winner is. So that will be very interesting, to say the least, to see who wins. So good luck if you enter tomorrow night. Here we go then. Let's go through a few of these questions. Well, John wants, we want Gadusi trending on Twitter. Chris Marshall says, Steve, would you start Willow on Saturday, and do you think Bruce will get sacked if we get another defeat? Chris, I don't think Steve Bruce will be sacked at all. I think that will be left to the incoming owners. If we get new owners in the next couple of months, I think that will be a problem that they will have to deal with. I do not think Steve Bruce will get sacked. Would I start Willock on Saturday? I don't see what we would have to lose. We've brought him in. He's been brought in on loan to play. He hasn't been brought in on loan to sit on the bench. If he's had enough training time and he's fit, I would give him a run out. Yes. Life goals. Did I ever meet Sir John Hall? What were your impressions? Yeah, me and Sir John Hall did have let's shall we say a few tete-a-tetes back in the day. I did disagree with quite a few things that he did, but I also agreed on a lot of stuff. And me and Sir John Hall are very good friends these days. Got a good relationship with Sir John. I've got to be honest. But yeah, I did like him. I know a few Newcastle fans don't like him. How can you not like anybody that brings Kevin Keegan to the football club and spends all that money on wonderful players? But yeah, I have met him. Malcolm has saved me bacon. He is back. And we can talk now a little bit about the game of the weekend. Newcastle Southampton. Mal. Can you hear us?
Steve, you're breaking up.
All right. Can you hear us now, Mal?
Yes, I can.
That's good. Good stuff.
Yeah, and then you're frozen again.
Oh, you're on a bit of a delay now, and now we're getting a bit of feedback.
Yeah.
Not quite sure what is going on there, guys, but Malcolm was feeding back there. That was crazy. Couldn't understand. Yeah, can everybody How's the bacon, did you say? Yeah, how's the bacon? He's gone. Yeah, there we go. Right, okay, there we go. Malcolm has gone. I've had to kick him off the broadcast. Not a great end to the show, it's got to be said. But where were we with the questions? Yeah, Willock, yeah, I did say that I would start him, that's fine. Hi, Steve, says Jax. Hi, Steve. Seen Luke Goss film last night. You didn't last long. No, I didn't. Not my proudest moment, but a good film to be in. It has to be said. T-Tank says, thanks for the time with all these shows. Thank you very much. Keith Rowe, Steve, what are your opinions on Newcastle's business in January's transfer window, and are there any positions you would like to have seen strengthened? Keith, it was a quiet window. It was to be expected. From my perspective, I was pleased to see one player come in. I was really pleased that we didn't lose Richie. I think he's going to be a valuable member of the squad, even if he's not getting a game at the minute. I think it's valuable to have, Richie in and around the dressing room area, especially, and he's the kind of player that could help keep you up. So yes, 100%. Pleased with that. But the rest of it, I think fullback. We could have done with another fullback, and we could have done with another forward, if you want my honest opinion. Mal's back again. How are you, Mal?
Yeah, all right. Yeah,
that's better. Good stuff. Happy days. That was weird. It was repeating and going. It was going a little bit mad, but never mind. We got there in the end. So let's look ahead to the weekend's game, and we've already mentioned it's Southampton at home. It's a good old Saturday 3:00 kick-off. Although again, fans won't be allowed in. Once again, it's live on BT Sport. Obviously a little bit early for team news, as it usually is on a Thursday. Fernandez and Jamal Lascelles is expected to remain sidelined. It is reported as well that the Premier League clubs must submit their revised 25-man squad before this game, so we'll probably see some news on that tomorrow, I think, from Newcastle. Obviously Southampton lost 9-0 at Man United on Tuesday. Obviously they only had 10 men. I think Bednarek, can you hear us? Oh, he's gone again. He's gone. Mal's gone. It's not working, unfortunately. So I'll look ahead to the Southampton game on my own. Unfortunately, we'll have these issues sometimes with Malcolm, and it is down to his internet, unfortunately. Yes, Bednarek, I think, has mounted a successful appeal, so he will now be available. Oriol Romeu, Yannick Westergaard, Kyle Walker-Peters were all missing at Old Trafford, but they have returned to training. Theo Walcott, Ibrahim Adalo, Michael Obafemi, William Smallbone, Nathan Teller, Mohamed Salisu, and Stuart Armstrong are all expected to be unavailable this weekend. Southampton have cobbled together 9 players for the bench, but alongside former Magpie Fraser Foster, there was a sizable chunk of the club's under-23 side alongside another goalkeeper. So they are struggling. They'll be over the moon that they managed to overturn that suspension, but from my perspective, it's a tough game, and I know Malcolm felt the same. We were talking off air before he came on. We all felt that we both felt it was probably going to be a tough game this weekend. I will obviously cover that on Matchday Live, but a big thanks to you for tuning in tonight. Let's go through a few more questions before I go. Will a Southampton win spell the end of Bruce? No, definitely not. I do not think at all we will see the end of Steve Bruce. I think ultimately the situation will see Steve Bruce stay until the takeover goes through. If a takeover doesn't go through, then ultimately I think we will see I will see that happen. We'll give Mal one last chance. Here he goes.
Yeah.
Mal,
yes.
Southampton at home, how do you see it going?
As I said at fairly near the beginning of the programme, it really does depend on how Southampton react after that enormous defeat that they suffered to Man United. Having witnessed the manager and the way that he goes on, I would think that he's not going to stand for any nonsense, and he will be demanding that they get out and they make up for the embarrassment of that game. And so I think that Newcastle are going to have a very tough prospect in this match against Southampton. But if they can harvest all those good things that they did against Everton, which was the last away game, then I don't see why they can't put on that kind of a display. You've got a guy up front who he almost scores goals for fun when everybody brings him into the game. And so if Newcastle can recreate that form that they showed against Everton, I think they can do well, really well. If they show the form that was Crystal Palace, then they could get a walloping. Because I really do feel that Southampton now come out all guns blazing to make up for that 9-0 thrashing.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game, Mal. Certainly.
Very tough.
Well, thanks for managing to come back on and giving us your prediction, Mal. Good to have you on. We got there. We nearly got there. We've got about 10 minutes to go before the end. As I said, let's hope that John Gibson is okay and he's firing on all cylinders, like from our perspective, and he is back next week. But Mal, have a good week. Stay safe. Look forward to speaking to you next Thursday, mate. Take care.
All right. Hopefully we can talk together with 3 points in the bag.
Fingers crossed. Take care, mate. Bye-bye.
Good night. Good night, everybody.